sisters, brothers, comrades, I'm going to disappoint you because the Speaker was to be Councillor Dave Naddis, the leader of the Socialist Party group on Coventry City Council. But he has an important union event and couldn't make it. Like Tommy, Dave only claimed the average skilled worker's wage when he was actually a Member of Parliament, and the same applies now he's a Socialist councillor too. So you've got me, the deputy leader, but don't tell him, there's only two of us. But I bring you also support of all the Socialist Party councillors in England and Wales, and also the Socialist Party itself, which is part of the Committee for the Workers International in many countries, which in turn is part of Solidarity. And I remember one phrase that Tommy used to utter a lot during the mass campaign against the poll tax was that an injury to one of us is an injury to all of us. And when one is injured, I also remember particularly important this, because if they had a passport control at Gretna Green, and Tommy had a passport in the late 1980s, it would be the size of the Encyclopedia Britannica, because on countless occasions, day in, day out, Tommy not only built the mass non-payment campaign of the poll tax in Scotland, but he came down on many trips to England and Wales to assist us in doing the same, and we haven't forgot that. And the least I can do today is make that trip the other way to give support to Tommy, because believe you me, Tommy is unforgiven by the ruling class for helping remove Margaret Thatcher. Remember the poll tax? It was going to be her flagship. She was going to ride over our whitened bones. We were just a few lefties. We weren't going to take her on. Well, they thought wrong. They thought without taking into account the determination of ordinary working people led by individuals like Tommy Sheridan. And that campaign built a movement of 20 million people in Scotland, England and Wales who either had paid no poll tax or were in serious arrears by 1991. And we got it wrong a bit because we said Maggie Thatcher would go down with her poll tax flagship. Actually, her own side made her walk the plank before the thing got rid of itself. But Tommy's role was tremendous because Tommy helped get a measure of revenge for Thatcher's attacks on the shipbuilding industry here, on the mining industry, on the print workers, and I'll mention something about the print workers in a second, on the unemployed, on the National Health Service, and as I've said before, Thatcher, Murdoch, all back the same free market capitalist system. One scratches one's back, the other scratches others, and they see Tommy Sheridan and the ideas he espouses as a threat, and they're going to try and take him down. And that's why we all need to stand together, because you imagine, it's a bit like that film It's a Wonderful Life, isn't it? All the things that wouldn't have happened had an individual like Tommy Sheridan not been involved in campaigning for ordinary working people in Scotland and having a reputation that's gone more than south of the border in terms of standing up for standing up for socialist ideas. I also need to make special mention about the print workers, because that great moral compass of the media, Murdoch, sacked 5,000 of them, and there was a huge dispute in Wapping in East London. And I remember one of my first very blunt trauma socialist education events was watching riot police on horseback like Cossacks, peeling old guys off railings and people beating their heads in. Comrades, the average Dalek had more compassion, in my view, than some of those thugs in uniform. But I perceived at that point that Murdoch and them were one and the same, that privilege got defended. And isn't it a disgrace that some people who call themselves socialist chose to sit with him after all that went on? I won't keep you for much longer here, but I did mention ideas. And ideas have been mentioned before. And ideas, times come, and we need socialist ideas now. With the situation with Northern Rock in my city in Coventry, the housing register has almost doubled because people can't be housed. That was in a former city that produced cars like Jaguar, where industry is now being denuded. We have a housing minister, Caroline Flint, with a heart made of the same substance as her surname, who doesn't just want unemployed people to sing for the supper, but to keep the very roof over her head. I remember on the elections where Dave Nellis recently got elected by a thumping big majority as a councillor again. One of our supporters in a thing we have called the Hillfield Socialist Group, where we bring people together, came forward and had a visit from the Labour candidate who pointed to Dave's picture in the window and said, well, if you vote for him, you might as well vote Tory. She said straight back, no, if I vote for you, I might as well vote Tory. At the end of the day, that you used to say at one time that you couldn't get a cigarette paper between the policies of the right wing and the Labour Party and the Tory Party. Comrades, a scanning electron microscope wouldn't be able to detect the join now. But the reason Tommy's been attacked is precisely because those ideas are going to find a home in millions of ordinary working people as they seek a way out of this crisis. And that's why the Murdoch empire and the system's trying to take Tommy down. And also I have to I just briefly mention the principles are a very important thing here, because Tommy went to jail for defending a few sticks of furniture of a woman who was going to have them sold off to pay a poll tax debt plus sheriff officer charges. If you look round the House of Commons today, how many members of Parliament would do that? I'll tell you something, comrades, you'd have better luck trying to get a vampire to be a blood donor than find politicians now with the same principles that Tommy had and that Tommy has actually stood up for. And if they can't beat you, if they can't bully you, if they can't bump you off and stick you in a ditch, they'll try and bury you alive by destroying your reputation. So that's why we must stand by Tommy, because he has stood by countless working people against the misery of the poll tax, out on picket lines, and the debt needs to repay. But there's something I'd like to leave you with. I'll do my bit of fighting south of the border to raise this campaign. But also, again, it's about ideas. And I would like people here not just to support Tommy now, but also to get involved in solidarity and build socialist ideas for future generations, because that's why they're attacking Tommy, and we need to make sure that their attack is not successful. Thank you for having me.